this was on the doorstep when we pulled in late last night. So here we do this morning. This should be a Wangs HD-15. Wangs amplifiers are made in China, just like most others. You would think it's pronounced Wangs, but it's Wangs. And the description on the website is this. It's a true beast to behold indeed. Three uniquely voiced channels. 3 channels give you an amazing array of tone options. Channel 1 clear, clean, and glassy. Channel 2 is overdrive that's clean-ish to mean-ish. Channel 3 will completely rip off your head and poop down your neck. Now, I'm substituting poop, whereas they have 4 asterisks. Of course, all Wangs amps come loaded with only the finest quality American, European, and Japanese components, thick fiberglass PCBs, and 100% birch enclosure in black. And this amp has 266, just like the Ignator Rebel 30, and 5 12AX7s. So it's got a huge gain step. It's a very, very nice amp. The price is already going up. So I'm always leery to recommend things because of kickback, possible kickback, but I can say wholeheartedly, I recommend you run out and pick up one of these Wangs amplifiers. I'll show you how. If I do have a little bit of relay, reverb, just to sweeten it up in the room a little bit. Sounds great. But it has this bright switch, which I thought, when I tried it, I thought it sounded really bright, like it should. So I thought, well, heck, let's put this treble over in the presence just for giggles and see what happens. And I had the same kind of reaction I do when I plug into a Princeton, because every once in a while, I still plug into a Princeton just because they have such a nice, clean character to them. And every time I do, it sets me back and I say, dang, that sounds really good. I had the same kind of feeling when I clicked over here on the bright, rolled the presence and treble back. Ridiculous. This amp checks so many boxes. It's got the beautiful cleans. It's got the amazing lower driven tones for Telecasters and Strats. No paper tearing sound in the decay. And then you get up into the high gain and it's very Mesa like, but it's a little spongier, a little looser, which I really like. The Mesa was almost sterile to me. It had a little bit of the ear fatigue. I kind of kept working with it, and tube change helped, and some speaker stuff helped, but it was still always so tight, especially the high gain channel, the lead channel was so tight. I couldn't really use it. I didn't like to use it as a lead without pushing it anyway, because I had a hard time compressing it anyway. I sold the Mesa, and because I'm so thrilled with it. Talk about this being kind of a squishy channel. That's true. Once the gain starts coming up, it gets loose and a little flubby, but it's really nice. But I like that there's a lot of usable gain. It doesn't go from 0 to too much in just the tap of a knob. As promised, we took this Wangs HD-15 apart, and we're going to take a cruise around inside. Here's the overall kind of layout of what's going on. And right off the bat, I noticed that we don't have any goopy stuff holding our capacitors down. So we're going to take care of that with some siliconized latex caulking. I think you could probably use hot glue too, but hot glue is really sticky. I don't want to do any permanent damage to the circuit board if I should ever have to take the hot glue off. I also was reading that silicone by itself isn't good because it's fairly acidic, I guess. And if you do, you give it a sniff, it's got some, weird chemical stuff going on. But latex caulking is about as inert as it gets. So let's just run through this real quick. This is our output from the main transformer, where we have all our leads divvied up and sent to that board for different power values to go out to the amplifier, to different stages of the amplifier. And we've got rectifier diodes tucked up in here. We have 5 up in there, so I'm not exactly sure what that is, but these 4 here are probably a bridge type rectifier. We've got our 2 filter caps right here, and notice they're loose, and that's because they don't have any goop holding them down, but I'm going to take care of that with my latex caulking, and it'll be fine. Hot glue would be, I think, a pretty good alternative as well. Some people were saying, well, be careful with the hot glue. If your amp gets too hot to melt it again, it could reflow and cause problems. If your amp's getting hot enough to melt hot glue, there's bigger problems than just worrying about the glue. Anyway, here's one of our 6v6s, and they aren't EL34s. We got a 6v6 right there, 6v6 right there. The sockets are attached to the chassis instead of the circuit board, which is nice. It's a nice sturdy feature. Notice the size of the components in here. Everything is Largo. So if something should fail, I could probably fix it. These are biasing, I think, resistors, really large value. Large, I should say large ohmage, large power rating, but small value resistors, taking care of the bias voltage for those 2 large output tubes. And everything's labeled in English. We've got pots down the side. It's a pretty nice layout. Everything's nice and big, and there's no chips in here, no integrated circuits. None. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5th preamp tube right there. And then the 2 output tubes. Down here we have the outputs. We've got our speaker outs, 4, 8, or 16, and these are all switching jacks. So they continue. They allow the circuit to continue until you put a connector in there, a male plug, and then it opens up. And these are the effects loop guys right over there. The balance control for our effects loop. All right, so really, if something happened here, you would probably be able to tell. So I'm going to come back. I won't bore you with putting goop on my board, but like these 2 caps, just a little bit loose, and it's not a fault of the manufacturing. It's just because they are radial lead components. They stick down, and there's a lot of mass up on top of the lead. So I'll put a little goop right down in there between the caps and the circuit board. And the same thing for all of them, and I'll try to keep it off anything that might otherwise be important. All right, so now we got the top of this bad boy. There's the 6v6s, and we get into our preamp tubes, and surprise, surprise, if they're not all electro-harmonics tubes. 12AX7s, every single one of them is a 12AX7, which is pretty cool. Well, not that they're 12AX7s, but they're all electro-harmonics, all branded the same, and so I thought that was pretty cool. Now these, here, we've got one that's branded 6v6. The other one, these retainers are really stiff. Ugh. The other one is not branded, and it's got a little funky stuff around the edge right there. I think you can probably see that. Let me get my small-ish screwdriver. See right here? There's some nasty, I don't know if it's probably just glue, but it's pretty flaky, and This tube is not branded with anything. So they're not, you know, just kind of weird that they don't both have the same markings. Made in China electron tube. So what I've got in the house is a pair of 6v6 ruby tubes. And I'm going to put those in, since I have them, I'm going to put those in those sockets in place of these. And then I'll put some goop on the underside of the board and put it back in the chassis. All right, I've got some spots of goop right up there, right down here, right there. Pretty much anywhere we had some of those tall caps, we've got a little bit of goop laid in there. And that's gonna be great. No problem. All right. And then our new tubes. Here we go with Ruby 6v6 GT STR. Not the best tube. Not the best 6v6 tube on the market, but a good tube. A decent tube. Fairly clean tube. The JJ 6v6S are getting really good reviews from people like the Tube Store. Apparently it's a very robust tube. Handles a lot of high voltages real well. They put them, it's a pretty good article, they put them through the paces. They're just, oh geez, they didn't even have it on. And there they are. Nice and brand new. So I'll put this back together and we'll fire it up.